Welcome to In the Background of Life with Kelly Ramsey, the podcast that invites you to sit down in a cozy living space, sipping a cup of tea while we embark on a captivating journey about our intentional narratives in our lives. I'm Kelly Ramsey, and this podcast is your warm space to unravel the stories woven into everyday moments. It's a tapestry crafted with intention and purpose. So grab your favorite cup of tea, settle in, and let's explore the unnoticed details that contribute to the intentional design of the world around us. Together, we'll celebrate the beauty in the threads that make life extraordinary. All right, welcome back. We are going to be continuing our discussion today about relationships. Today, we're going to talk about some of those relationships that have supported us. If you caught our last episode, we talked about where our relationship begins with purpose and our relationships with ourself, looking at our identity, and then our relationship with others. So we're going to continue that discussion through the lens of our maps. So if you weren't with us last time, we asked you to do two things. One, to draw a map of your life from beginning, your birth story, all the way to present day. And then two, to make a list of the relationships that you're in and how they benefit you. And then also how you benefit others in relationships. So in my homework, I had the joy of revisiting a book that I was a part of, an anthology called Living and Loving After Tragedy. It's the story of the beginning of my adulthood life. It's the story of my divorce of my first husband. It's the story of how I rediscovered who I was and reclaimed my identity, never to lose it again. In this story, I read my own passage and I was appalled at the vividness of the story, but also awakened to remember how I got through that journey, and all of it caused me to become a better person. So I started writing that book when I moved to Oklahoma over 25 years ago. And when I read it again, I shrunk back. I shrunk back to the wounded woman, young woman, who was pretty naive, married at 17, turned 18, my first year of my marriage, and not sure of myself at all, but wanting to be pleasing, wanting to serve others, and wanting to cause my husband to shine. And so I remember distinct moments that I encountered during that time that were devastating. But I also remember little glimpse of hope, of life that were shining through. That was through my own private study of God's Word, friendships with my dear, dear friend, DeAndrea, and also being able to throw myself into serving others. That's how I got through those years. But when I thought about, in hindsight, what I should have remembered most was that my identity was into question. Who I was at the core of my being was in question. And when I rediscovered myself, I promised myself I would never shrink back. I would never stop being all of who God created me to be. And to date, I have done exactly that. And then I can fast forward to today as a mother, as a wife, that because the best of who I am is present, I'm able to give that to my husband and to my children. That didn't happen overnight. So the background of life of that story is quite lengthy, so we'll break it out little by little as we go along. But I remember the best is that I had made a decision not to live my fullest life in order to benefit someone else and to be what they wanted me to be, not what God had called me to be. And so as I think about that, my vision of who I am, rebuilt with purpose, causes me to move in a very different way. It also causes me to show up in relationship wholeheartedly and to give the best of who I am to those that I serve, as well as those that I'm in partnership with as well. When I started to think about all of the experiences that I had and the wisdom that I gained from those experiences, I can share that voice now that I have and never lose it again. That voice is what helped me to heal. It also helped me to decide to remarry again, the love of my life, and to trust the love that was being presented to me. It helped me to become a mom to my children, to be present, and to be able to nurture and to grow them. All of those experiences were necessary, and all of those experiences have created what I live in today. And for that, I'm grateful. So when we consider ourselves in our relationship, we consider both what we are experiencing individually, and we also consider the people who are around. We were in relationship with them. That's the spirit of the life that we get to live. So I asked you on last episode to write down a list of the people that support you in relationship, and then also those that you support. And when I started to go through my list, immediately, of course, was my family in my household, my husband and my sons. But also, it was my mom, my sisters, my best friends that I call best friends, my besties. I have an art bestie I would shout out that's in that circle as well. It's the community of support that I've gained through hobbies that I have. It's my group that I craft with, quilt with. It's the group that I do all of my foodie experiences with, go to the farmer's market. That's my community, right? And so those relationships see me as who I am, but they also see me at my worst, and they see me at my best, and they still love me, and they still support me. In community, we find not only support and benefit for ourselves, but we're also able to be there for others. It's like when you get a message that someone has lost a loved one, and immediately you feel that in your heart, because you can imagine what the depth of that hurt is feeling like for them. You want to do something to support them, but really all they need is like one word to let them know that you're there. You're praying for them. You're there to support them. And then without them asking, you come and you present them with something that you think would be meaningful. That's what it means to be in relationship. So when I think about that, I think about the fruit that comes from mutual friendship, where we both benefit from that friendship or that relationship. When I think about that, I think about how we pour ourselves into our work, into our projects, into all of those areas, and we get to come alongside one another in that. Being steadfast in your purpose is your destiny to fulfill. Only you can do it. Being steadfast to show up in the ways that you show up makes all the difference in the world. And when I think about this podcast in the background of life, this is what most people don't understand that's happening in the background. In the foreground, we see the picture, we see the smiling, we see them always present. But in the background, you may not know that they struggle with depression, that they're going home alone, that they haven't eaten in days because they didn't have an appetite. So we need to investigate also in our relationships to make sure they're not surface, but that we're truly being support to one another. It's in the background of life that everything is happening and moving. If you think about gears on a truck, the truck is moving and able for the wheels to turn and to keep moving because underneath the gears are moving and connected. They're loose. They've been oiled. And those gears are what keeps everything moving. That's what we want to support. That's the real support in relationships. So in thinking about that, I think about celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary with my husband. So it's been 25 years since I wrote that book, and that story came out of divorce, and that he pursued me and asked me to be his wife. So in that 25 years, I have vivid memory of pictures of both the really joyous times, the hard times, the challenging times, but I also have fruit of that labor. So we're gardeners. And so if I think about my marriage as a garden, I would go out in my backyard. I would nurture the tree that the fruit is growing on. We have a plum tree and a peach tree. We have a grapevine. We have blackberries. All of those don't have any fruit if we don't nurture them at the root, at the soil. So we start that nurturing in the wintertime so that we can reap benefit in the spring and in the summer. And so think about 25 years of growing this tree that's been nurtured at the roots. And then we can look on that tree and we can see the fruit of our labor, the fruit of our love. Some fruit is tangible, like our boys, like obviously they've been existing. And because of them, we became parents. So 17 years and then 14 years. And so they are a fruit of our labor. We should expect to see from the seed that we planted fruit that looks like us and acts like us. So help us, because that's quite a mixture if you mix the two of us together. But what I'm saying is that there should be some fruit in the relationships that we hold. The other thing is that in those relationships, it took labor, it took work, it took effort on our part, because we didn't have it all together. I was divorced. He had been divorced as well. So we were coming in, trusting love again, and looking at how to support one another and truly be there for one another. And so I can say we have successfully done that. Has it all been great in the journey? No. But would I trade anything of it? Not at all. So one of the things that I love that stands out is that each of us had ideas and dreams. My husband is an artist. And when I think about those dreams and ideas, a lot of that courage that we needed to do it came from one another, came from one small word, came from an encouragement. I remember when my husband first started golfing. So all the guys at the church were golfing, and we bought the wives bought them clubs so that they could bond, because wives are always going to be hanging out bonding. So we wanted to give them the same experience. And so my husband today is an avid golfer. He actually makes his golf clubs, but that was because of encouragement to pursue his dream, because he had worked all of his life. He went to work, took care of his family, went to church, and he didn't have the pleasures of doing something that brought him joy. And so when he would start to think like, is it too much? Am I golfing? I'm like, no, you have joy when you go do it, enjoy it, go hit the golf balls, go be great. And the stories he would come back as he would tell them. He passed that on to our boys as well. They're also pretty good golfers. And so that's something we get to share. But then I think about in relationship, it's always twofold. So it's not ever one-sided. So in our relationship, it's not that I'm just supporting him, but he's also supporting me. I remember my graduation from Southern Nazarene University with my bachelor's degree. Most of that bachelor's in the adult studies program, I was still processing my divorce. I was remarried, but I was still processing all of these hurts in this layer. But I remember so vividly him cheering me on each night as I drove to class Monday nights, 6 to 10 p.m. every Monday night, and cheering me on to go forward to get my degree. And I remember him sitting with me and talking to me and reassuring me as I was doing my writing. And then on the day of graduation, seeing him, my sister, my best friends surrounding me, congratulating me was the best gift ever. That helped me to continue on and pursue my master's and now my PhD. So he often encourages me in that journey because that's a longer journey that I'm still on. But this is someone who was willing to trust love again, and I was willing to trust love again and commit myself to him and to God and to be established in our faith in God and learn how to support and journey along with one another. That's what relationship is all about. So God wants us to be as well as we can on our journey. We've conquered many things and we've had many transitions and we've had some challenges as well. But we were able to face that because we centered first one another by honoring each other and making each other a priority, and that has led to the best days of our lives as we move forward. We help each other to be a better version of ourselves as well. And then the last thing is that we're always dreaming and imagining, what else can we do? Where else can we go? What travel? What do we want to embark on? And then how do we bring others along by being mentors and examples of that and being able to support their dreams as well and being able to show this is our everyday life. We're pretty transparent. When people come over or they're sharing in our spaces, they often say, like, you guys just crack me up. Like, you guys are so down to earth, because we don't know any other way to be. We're just down to earth, who we are every day. But we keep trying to figure it out so that we can support our core relationships and continue to move forward in the things that we need to. So today, I want you to remember that relationships take time. They have to be cultivated. They're worth the investment, and they're worth the time that it's spent cultivating what it looks like. So, of course, 2 action steps that we have for you from your list that you created on last podcast. I want you to put a circle around those relationships that you treasure the most. And as you look at those relationships that you treasure, think about, how do you continue to fuel that relationship? It may be a relationship that you haven't spent as much time on, that you want to rekindle or that you want to revisit. So just make note of that. But in looking at that relationship that you want to kindle, I want you to set some goals around that. If the goal is to reconnect every morning, if it's someone in your household, making sure how you're going to be reconnecting. If the goal is to cultivate some new wonders, new discoveries, some dreaming, then write that down and then begin to make steps toward it. Maybe the goal is to connect friendships that you have across the board. So bring all of your friends together in the same space. My sister, god sister, she did this for Valentine's Day, and it was the most beautiful event. And she brought all those that she wanted to love on, that were single ladies, and she brought them into the room, and some married, and she just celebrated them. We had so much fun, so much laughter. We ate good food. We had nice refreshments and beverages and whatnot and desserts. And we played games. We got to know one another. But to see the smile on her face as we left, she showered us with gifts. And as we left, she's like, it was exactly what she wanted. She was cultivating those relationships. She continues to do so. She now has another event that she's planning. So choose something to do that you can cultivate those relationships, that you can create a memory that you can look back on and know that you have kept those relationships at the forefront. That's your challenge. Until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. This episode of In the Background of Life with Kelly Ramsey is brought to you by the Possibilities Podcast platform.